All right. So we can go ahead and get started now. Thank you so much for attending this check-in for all of you provisional chapters. My name is Angel, and I'm very excited to see all of you come together. And before we get started, we can go around and introduce ourselves. If you don't mind sharing your name and the chapter that you represent, and just any fun fact that you would like to share about yourself as well. So I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Angel. I'm the SACNAS programs coordinator. I've been working with SACNAS for like a year and a half now, and working a lot more closely with our chapters in the past like half year-ish. But yeah, it's been really nice working with all of our chapters. So very excited to see all of you and to meet up. But yeah, I'll call on people and then we could go in rounds, and we'll go with Daniela last. So I guess we could start off with Jasmine, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Jasmine Esparza. I represent the UC Davis grad chapter. And what else did you want us to say?
I guess like a fun fact about yourself. And yeah,
fun fact about myself.
Yeah, and I guess your chapter position as well. Like,
yeah. So I'm the president of the chapter, and a fun fact about myself is that I used to have bright blue hair, and I dyed it a bunch of different colors. But now, because in grad school, I just dyed it back to to brown.
Thank you. You could just pick on someone else.
Sheila.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shayla. I am the president of the Virginia Commonwealth University chapter. Fun fact about me, I recently found this really good restaurant here in Richmond. It's called Eloteria, and they have a birria pizza, and it's so good. Okay, and then I'll pick Catherine.
Hi everyone, so I'm Catherine. I'm the national liaison for the University of Maryland. And a fun fact about me, because I couldn't think of anything else on the spot, is that I still have all my wisdom teeth. And then I guess I can pick Forrest.
Hi, I'm the national liaison for the OSU CHS chapter. And fun fact, I've done an 11-inch limbo.
Thank you. I think we have one more person. I think
right.
Sasha.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Natasha de la Rosa. I'm the president of the SACNAS chapter at UMass Amherst. That's University of Massachusetts. And then one fun fact about me is that I guess I don't have any favorite colors. I like all colors. Like I'm very passionate about colors. I just get really excited about colors. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there anyone else that has not gone yet? I feel like that was mostly everyone, I mean, but yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it on to Daniela.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniela. I think I've seen some of you before. I am the Associate Director of Member Services at SACNAS. And you'd think that I took all that time going last to think of a good fact, but the only thing I can think of is that I know how to say the ABCs backwards, because I learned in 3rd grade for a talent contest, and I could still do it. So yeah, thank you. Really good to see you. Just real quick, before Angel really gets into it, I think this is the first time we've held a call for all of our provisional chapters together. So thank you for joining. I'm hoping that, Angel's going to go over some stuff that, just to make sure everyone's on the same page about how you get to active status. But really, the last half of this is an opportunity for you to meet each other, ask each other questions, get advice. You are all really the experts of what it takes to run a successful chapter. And of course, since we only have provisional chapters here, if there are things that come up where you're interested in connecting with another chapter that's not here, or a more long-standing chapter, or whatever it is, that is what Angel and I are here for. So we can connect you with resources. But really hoping, just enjoying, looking forward to your all's conversation and answering any questions you have. So thank you for taking some Friday time to be here.
Perfect. Thank you, Daniela. And I apologize if I'm coughing a little bit. I wake up with a little sore throat, so I'm just drinking my tea over here. But yeah, now I want to make sure you have an idea of what we'll be doing today. I will be going through some of the main SACNAS deadlines and dates that we have for this year. And we'll talk about the components of the annual reports and review the process to becoming an official chapter. Then we can have a Q&A session for any questions that you have, and close out with an opportunity for you all to connect and to get to know each other essentially. So we will go ahead and get started about the deadlines. Let me just share my screen really quick. All right. Click share. And can everyone see that? Perfect. All right, sorry. So yeah, I encourage you to review this calendar in detail, which I will be sharing with you via email as well. So I'll go ahead and email this after this meeting. But I will point out the 3 important deadlines that I really want to highlight. First, in late February, we will be having a harassment and discrimination training. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. For our chapter officers, Daniela and I have been working currently on selecting what these trainings will look like and send them over later this month in order to have our officers prepared to hold events that require like a big group of people or minors. Second is the research presentations and travel scholarships applications. For the spring, will open on the 22nd of this month, pretty soon, which is like around 3 weeks from now, I think. And as a reminder, you do have to be a SACNAS member in order to apply. Now, third, which is the most exciting part, as you imagine, are the annual reports. These reports are required for all chapters once a year to maintain an active status. But this year they are what we will be reviewing to transition you from provisional status to official status. So I want to be sure to review this carefully in a bit. Yeah, but before we get into components of the annual report, I also want to mention that in addition to be required for official status, these reports must be submitted for your officers to be eligible to attend our chapter officer retreat in October. Like last year, this retreat will be held in conjunction with the National Diversity in STEM Conference in Portland, Oregon. So yeah, that sums up our 2023 dates and deadlines. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff right here to cover, but you could just look over this one by one on your own time. And yeah, please note that these dates are subject to change as well. But if that happens, which I kind of doubt it won't be much of a gradual change. We will provide you with an updated version. So now we can look over the components of the annual reports. Let me just pull that up really quick. So yeah, so this is how last year's looked, and we'll be just looking over this really quick. So part 1 will ask general questions about your chapter information, such as advisors, number of members, and the way that you finance your chapter. And then part 2, which will be due the following week, on April 17th, will be a section where you upload the 4 main attachments that we asked for. It being the advisor report, the member roster, the institutional recognition, and the activities list. And also to be noted is that we have templates for the member roster and for the activities list. And for the professional chapters, which I don't know if there's any professional chapters in this call, but I'll be sharing this with them as well. You do not need advisor report or the institutional recognition. But that's only for the professional chapters. Other than that, all student chapters, yes, you do need these 4 attachments. So to get a jump start, you could get a look at the website, which shows last year's annual report, which is essentially these ones right here. And as a heads up, you may see some changes as to to the changes on the questions asked. So please keep in mind that an updated version will be uploaded to the website in March, titled the 2023 annual reports. These changes won't be that gradual to the point where you have to, reconsider your whole activities or anything like that. It'll just be, might just be a little bit, a few more questions that we ask, but it should be really similar to this. So yeah, are there any questions on the components of the annual reports? And I'll stop sharing right now. And if there's no questions, I mean, you could always, email us if you do have any questions in the future. But yeah, I guess there's no questions right now. It's all good. Like I said, you could always email us. But yeah, we can now talk about what happens after you compile and submit your report, and how you move to an official status. So after submitting your report, SACNAS will submit your reports to the chapter subcommittee of volunteers. This subcommittee is charged with reviewing reports and submitting their recommendations to move you to official status to the National Board of Directors. The National Board of Directors will vote to approve you as an official chapter in a subsequent board meeting. After the meeting, the Board of Directors will notify staff, which is Daniela and I, that you have been approved, and we will move quickly on to the next steps, including sending you an official letter via email. And because we are working with a lot of volunteer groups, as well as reviewing multiple reports from the time you submit your report, this process can take approximately like 2 to 3 months. Obviously, we'll try to be really fast with that. But you can expect to get updates from me along the way. But roughly, we expect for you to hear about your official status by, we're guessing, around July at the latest. But yeah, is there any questions that come off the top of your head that Daniela and I could probably help answer, or any questions for yourselves as well?
I did have one regarding the harassment training. I know we talked about it at the color retreat, and that if our university kind of had like a similar one, that we could kind of, but depending on what's covered in ours and what's covered in the SACNAS one, I just wanted to see the process with that.
Yes, right, Daniela. I think they could submit one from your institution that I think that's pretty recent. I don't know when you might have done that, but you can submit that, and we will be working on that this in the upcoming weeks, and providing you updates with which, what can you submit and what can you not submit. But yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
But yeah, any more questions? I did have a question that we have received in the past, which is what type of activities is the SACNAS chapter subcommittee looking for? So this is a really good question that obviously, every chapter wants to know, what essentially what we're looking for. So one of the activities could be related to professional development. That's obviously really strong on your annual reports. Another one is networking with nearby chapters, networking with nearby institutions, or other student clubs and organizations in your institution. That's obviously a really good one, since you're putting the SACNAS name out there, and we get a lot more recognition, not just in your institution, but nearby, in the area, essentially. And another one is attending workshops as well. Whether you're going to a workshop in your institution, or going to see a speaker, somewhere else, driving over there. Stuff like that is really, really cool. I think that shows a really strong interest for your members and for your chapter. So yeah, essentially those kind of three. I mean, there's other little stuff too, but those three are some really, really strong ones as well. But yeah, if there are any questions?
I had a question, and that was super helpful actually. So I appreciate you bringing up the activities and examples of activities.
Mhm.
I was wondering if there was a limit on advisors for the chapter.
Yeah, great question. So technically there is no limit. You do need at least one advisor for your chapter. But we strongly recommend to having more. As always, there's there might be changes or emergencies where maybe an advisor.
Yeah,
has
and
to-
professors tend to be
Sure.
so
Yeah.
busy that it definitely would be
Yeah.
nice to have multiple. Okay,
Yeah,
that sounds good.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like you said, some advisors are really, really busy as well. So we recommend like 2 or more, but the requirement is to at least have 1. But yeah, great question. Yeah, I guess we could move on to the next section if there's no more questions. So we can move on now to the group discussion where I would like for you to answer these following questions, and I'll post them on the chat as well. The first one being, how has your chapter managed through your first year as being provisional chapter for SACNAS? Following that, any positives, any difficulties? Essentially, I want you to share with each other any tips, resources, that you have. So yeah, let me just go ahead and put down the chat, and you can just start answering.
I can answer this. So basically, one thing that our chapter saw is we definitely had both of undergraduate and graduate students interested. So it was nice because we had a nice turnout. The thing was like, obviously our schedules are different. Our undergrads were more like 7 to 8 versus our graduate students wanted more of like a 2 to 3, so they could go home before 5. So it was kind of figuring out a way of, okay, how can we merge these two? So we created a graduate council. And so basically they can create their own events on their campus because also our campus are separated. And so then we have kind of like collabs. So we'll do like, okay, it's going to be a grad and undergrad mixer at this campus, and then we'll do it vice versa. So I think that was one of the positives. We finally figured out a nice combination of it, and I know that was something we were really struggling with, because obviously we want to include all types of students, regardless if you're a graduate or undergraduate or what career path you're in. So I think that that's really been helpful.
Cool, thank you, Sheila. Anyone else have any highlights or positives, difficulties from the last year?
Yeah, I can share as well. So for us at UC Davis, so we actually have 2 SACNAS chapters. We have an undergraduate chapter and then the grad student and postdoc chapter that I'm leading. And so positives is we had a lot of interest, and it was really nice to be able to have the separation, because I agree. I think the priorities of each community is so different. So we found that it was best to have 2 different SACNAS chapters, but we still our 2 boards meet very often. We have we're in communication pretty often. We're doing a lot of events together, and the boards as well are trying to do board socials in between both chapters to really get that communication going. A lot of other positives that we've had is that we've been pretty successful in establishing outreach opportunities. So I owe credit to my board because I'm here just giving them suggestions, and they just implement it. And we've been doing outreach with local elementary schools, with high schools, and community college. And UC Davis recently just released a lot of funding that we are eligible to apply for. Last year, there was almost nothing that we could apply for. It was really, really hard to get any sort of funding. We're really struggling with that. This year, I'm honestly not sure why, but there's a bunch of different institutions at Davis that just, I don't know, they have a lot of these opportunities specifically for graduate student organizations. So this year we've been applying to a lot of different things. And I think now my board has had a year and a half to kind of really get into the groove. And this year they're finally getting a lot more creative with the types of events that we're holding, the student communities that we're collaborating with. So I'm pretty proud of everything that we've accomplished. In terms of difficulties, now that funding is a little bit more accessible, it's retention for us is really hard, I think, because grad students, I understand that, things always happen in terms of like research and like different commitments at different times of the year in terms of like QEs or dissertation, getting close to that. So I think for us, having like a group of people who we know are going to come to each event, and having that retention is really difficult. We do get people, but they're always different, which is very interesting. So it seems like different events get different types of people. We do have maybe a few that come like very often, but in terms of a constant group of like members, I think that's something that we're struggling with.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Like at UMass right now, UMass Amherst, because there's another one in Worcester. At the moment, we have just one chapter, and we have graduate students, postdocs, like staff, you name it, and undergrads as well. We've been having a hard time recruiting undergrad, mainly because it's a little hard to get communication across the whole campus, because it tends to be two different, communities really, between like graduate students and then undergrads. And like I also feel like in our chapter has been really good, like in terms of like we've been really good at partnering up with other organizations. So like we've been trying really to like reach community, like local members of the community. So not only like high school students and middle school students, but also like providing like science seminars in Spanish, because we're in a local area. There's a lot of Hispanics in like Springfield, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, and so we've been trying to like have more communication with our surrounding communities, because UMass has like a hard problem doing that. They tend to like stay within their academic bubble, and so it has been good to like use the chapter to actually like have a sense of community between the academia and like the rest of the population in the area. I think in terms of like funding, one of the things that we've done in terms of strategy to get funding is that we try to like get at least like $500 from every department on campus that is related to science. And we just say that, this is your responsibility to like care for professional development of the students. And we're just asking you for the money, and we'll do everything else. Like we'll like subscribe them for like the national membership. We'll like get them to the conferences. We'll be providing like the seminar series. We'll be like bringing in speakers and all these things. And so they've been pretty amenable. Like sometimes they'll ask about like, how many like Hispanics or like indigenous people are like in each department. And we're like, well, here's like a little bit of it, but regardless, we're still very into the mission of like progressing on underrepresented minorities, and anybody is like welcome to the chapter as long as they're willing to like sustain this mission. And so that has been pretty good, kind of like putting that guilt on the departments, but not really. So like we're also applying for grants, but we also try to get that annual yearly funding from the departments. And we'll just like say that is for membership.
That's really, really good to hear. Is there anyone else who wants to share any highlights, shout outs?
Well, we're at a kind of a small school. It's a medical school, and OSU-CHS, the medical school, and it's got like a few grad students as well. So recruitment, like getting numbers is a bit difficult, but and most of the clubs are kind of split. They're either medical or grad students, and ours, it has had a lot of success in kind of crossing that barrier and getting both graduate students and medical students. And for outreach events, we found it pretty effective to kind of team up with some of the other medical clubs and stuff to do health related outreach. Like we did diabetes education and screening outreach thing that was really cool. And in terms of funding, our most effective method of funding was we kind of posted up in the main hall that everybody has to walk through to go everywhere. and did a bake sale, and that was pretty effective.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Or anything else you'd like to add on or respond to, to anyone? But as always, you could always email us any highlights that you've had. Also, if you don't mind putting on the chat, Daniela, the event sharing form as well. So we have a form where you could post any events that are coming up in the future that you want to share with the whole SACNAS network nationally. So that would be really, really cool a way for for member recruitment as well. And to just get your name out, and something we could point out as well on the annual reports, when the subcommittee is reviewing. But yeah, any future events that you'd like to share publicly, obviously you don't have to fill it out if you don't want to, but yeah, go ahead and fill that out. So yeah, it's a pretty cool form. Yeah, any more comments, questions that you have for each other or for us?
If nobody else has any, or while you're thinking, if you do, the other thing I wanted to make sure to mention, because I heard a different, I don't know if you saw me taking notes on the side, but some of the topics that come up, member recruitment, retention, fundraising, all of that stuff. One of the things the national office and Angel specifically is working on are doing a few more webinars. We had webinars a couple of years ago, and we found that we couldn't fit everything into the chapter retreat that we did last year. And of course, even if we could, not everybody can attend. So we will have some more focused conversations on all of those different topics. So if anything sparks you in terms of a specific thing that you feel like you need help with, let Angel know. Or if there's something you were really interested in talking to other chapters about, Natasha, your fundraising with the various departments is a great example of that. Would be something that I don't know if other chapters have done, but I'm sure they would love to hear like how you did that, how effective is it, all that stuff. So if you're interested in speaking in one of those webinars, also let us know and let us know what about. But really our job is ultimately to connect you with each other. And so whatever method that is, Angel and I are here. So thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. I guess we could go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much for attending. But yeah, for anyone who that couldn't attend, or or that probably just couldn't attend in general, like we have this as a resource. This chat will be sent out to all of you as well. But yeah, we want to congratulate you as well on almost completing your first year as a SACNAS chapter. We are very excited to approve you in our 50th year. Think about how big that is, the 50th year for SACNAS. So we want to recognize your hard work. You're making history by being official this year. So that's really, really cool. So yeah, please keep an eye out for our next webinar in February, which will be about member recruitment. And yeah, and finally, if you have any additional questions or comments, like I said before, please email me at chapters@sacnas.org. But yeah, I also dropped in the link for the annual report from last year so that you could take a look at as a reference. Like I said before, we will be doing a minor update on it, but it should look very, very similar to this. But yeah, anyone have any last comments before I end this?
I do have one question. Do you know where we could potentially find like some resources for applying for the travel scholarship? Because we want to do a workshop for that. And like other than like people who have previously been funded, like their applications, I'm just wondering if there's like any specific resources that we can provide our members.
I know that we will be having a application walkthrough video that I actually made, and we will be uploading that next week on the website as well. So that's and then on the website you could find a little bit more resources on that. But other than that, I would recommend asking, your fellow chapter network as well for, any tips or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know if you want to add on to more, Daniela.
Yeah, the only thing, in addition to all of that,
Mhm.
for a workshop, and I think I emailed you about this, Jasmine, but this goes to everybody. You're also more than welcome to invite someone from the staff to come speak to your chapter or in a workshop. So previously we would have, for example, the program manager who runs those applications would visit chapters to talk about, what they've seen, what the application process is like, just general tips that they've learned over the years. The current person who's running that application is on maternity leave, so I could do it in her absence, or my colleague Daryl Monteau, she also could, or someone else on the staff. So essentially what I'm saying is if there is any need or request for us to give our perspective or insight as a staff, we'd be more than happy to. Specifically for travel scholarships, we can never say scholarships or research presentations, membership in general. There might be a couple other topics related to SACNAS programming. We could talk about the conference. We could talk about CareerCon, which is another event that's coming up. So if you actually look at that schedule that Angel shared at the beginning, the calendar, probably pretty much everything on there we could talk about. So if anything like that comes up, just let us know and we can make ourselves available.
Thank you so much.
All right, so it looks like we have no more questions. But yeah, thank you all. Like I said, email me, chapters@sacnas.org. Daniela and I are working together with our chapters. I will be your main point of contact. But yeah, thank you so much for attending. Bye, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good Friday and a good weekend.
Happy Friday.
Bye.
Bye.